Good afternoon, everybody. It's your boy, Linkway Warrior Kamal, and I am back with another video. And in today's video, I am going to be reviewing this album right here. Now, let me brush you up on a little bit of history about the GZA. The GZA actually was the first member of the 10 members of the Wu-Tang Clan that actually got a record deal. And he actually was the first member of Wu-Tang Clan that came out with a solo album. This is his second album. He actually had an album that came out before this album called Words of Genius. It came out, his very first album came out in like 1990. This album right here though, this album came out in like 1995. It came out the same year that Raekwon's Only Built for a Cuban Link came out, and Oh Dirty Bastards Return to the 36 Chambers came out. It came out in 1995. And like I said, for those of you who, if you don't know who the GZA is, which I'm sure most of you do if you are a Wu-Tang Clan fan, GZA is a part of the legendary rock group Wu-Tang Clan. Now, the singles for this album were Liquid Swords, which is the same title as the album, as you can see. Code Word was another one of the singles off the album. Fourth Chamber and Shadow Boxing were singles off the album, and I Got Your Back is another single off the album. The album is produced by RZA. There are 13 tracks on the album. The album features Oh Dirty Bastard, Master Killer, and Spot the Deck, Ghostface Killer, Killer Priest, RZA, Method Man, You God, and Raekwon. Those are the features for the album. And this is what it looks like on the track listing right here, as you can see. And this is what the album looks like on the inside. As you can see, there's a picture of GZA right there, standing somewhere. And another picture of GZA right there, close up. And then another picture of GZA right there. And then there's a picture of GZA without his cap on right there. And another picture of GZA without his cap on right there. So this is what the inside looks like of the album. And this is what the cassette looks like. Now, at the time, GZA was signed to Geffen Records at the time. Now I'm about to review the album. Track number 1, which is Liquid Swords, is the first track on the album, is one of the singles off the album. On Liquid Swords, and by the way, this is one of my favorite tracks on the album. The Jizza comes through with some really, really dope verses on this track right here. Some of his best verses on the album. He comes through with some of his best verses on the album on Liquid Swords. Then the second track, Duel of the Iron Mike. This track features Oh Dirty Bastard and Spot the Deck, Master Killer on this track. The Jizza comes through with a really dope verse, and Spot the Deck comes through with one of his best verses ever, and Master Killer comes through with a dope verse too. And Oh Dirty Bastard does the hook on this track. And not only is this track, this is a dope track, and this is also one of my favorite tracks on the album. I really like the beat on this track. The Duel of the Iron Mike, I really like the beat on Duel of the Iron Mike. The third track on the album, Living in the World Today, is a really dope track. I like the beat on the track. I like the hook on the track, and the Jizza comes through with some really dope verses on this track. The fourth track on the album is Gold. Gold is actually another one of my favorite tracks on the album, and the Jizza comes through with some really, really dope verses on the track. And it's basically on this track right here, the track Gold, the Jizza is actually telling a story on this track. And if you ask me my personal opinion, Jizza is actually one of the best storytellers in the legendary rock group Wu-Tang Clan. And if I'm not mistaken, the beat on this track sounds like a heartbeat. You know how your heartbeat, it goes boo boo, boo boo, boo boo. It goes like the beat goes ba boo boo, ba boo boo. Like it's like the beat sounds like a heartbeat. It's like it's really creative. The beat on this track, which I really like that. Track number 5 on the album, Code Word, is another single off the album. This track right here features and Spot the Deck on it, and they are talking about on this track, they are basically talking about things that go on in the hood and about how little kids end up getting hit with bullets that are not intended for them and stuff like that. It's a really deep song, and it's basically stuff like this happen in real life. So it's basically it's they telling a story. The Jizza and Inspector Deck come through with a really dope verses on this track, and I like the concept of the track, the message of the track, the concept of the track, and the beat is really dope. The hook is really dope, and Inspector Deck and the Jizza come through with some really dope verses on this track. They both kill it. Track number 6, Labels. And you already know just by the track, the title of the track, that what he's rapping about. He's basically rapping about labels and about how these record labels are shady, and these record labels try to control you and stuff like that. That's basically the message that I got from labels. He was rapping about how the labels are shady. So that's the track number 6 on the album, and the Jizza comes through with a dope verse and one of his best verses on the album, and he kills it. Track number 7 on the album, Fourth Chamber. This is another one of the singles off the album. This track features Ghostface Killah, Killer Priest, and also the RZA, all featured on this track. Ghostface Killah comes through with a really dope verse on this track. Killer Priest also comes through with a dope verse on this track, and the RZA comes through with one of his best verses he ever spit on this track, Fourth Chamber, and the Genius closes it out with one of his best verses on the album. And this is another one of my favorite tracks on the album. And I really like the beat on this track too. Shadowboxing is another one of the singles off this album, and this is track number 8 on the album. This track right here features Method Man, and the beat is different, but it's creative and it's dope, and I like it. The Jizza comes through with a dope verse, and Method Man also comes through with a dope verse. And the beat, like I said, the beat is very creative. The next track is Hoes Winstaff. The beat is dope. The Jizza comes through with some dope verses on this track. and yeah. The next track is Killer Hills 10304. Now, I wasn't really a fan of the actual beat on this track. I wasn't a fan of the beat on this track. I wasn't really a fan of the beat on this track. I like the verses. Now, Jizza did come through with some dope verses on this track, but I was not a fan of the beat on this track right here. The beat, I wasn't feeling the beat on this track right here. But the verses were dope, though. I will say that. The verses were dope. Track number 11. Investigate of Reports. This track features U-God, Raekwon the Chef, and Ghostface Killah. Ghostface Killah comes through with one of his best verses that he ever spit on Investigative Reports. Raekwon comes through with a solid verse on this track, and U-God does the hook on this track, and Jizza also comes through with a dope verse on this track. The beat is dope. I like the beat also. I like the hook that U-God did for this track, and this is another one of the best tracks on the album, Investigative Reports. Track number 12, Swordsman. And if you ask me about this track, I actually feel like this track should have been the last track on the album. Swordsman. Jizza comes through with some really dope verses on Swordsman, and the beat is dope. I like the beat. I like the hook on the track, and also the concept of the song is it's a dope concept. The concept for the song, and he is basically telling a story on the track, Swordsman. And like I said earlier in the review, if you ask me my personal opinion, the Jizza is one of the best storytellers in the group. Now, track number 13 is the last and final track on the album, and this is also a single off the album, I Got Your Back. He is basically spit a verse on this track, one long verse if I'm not mistaken, and it's a storytelling track about growing up in the hood and how and being in the hood and how the hood is where he's from. That's basically what I took from the track on this track right here. It's another storytelling track on the album, I Got Your Back. Now, this album, if you ask me my opinion, to rate this album right here on a scale of 1 to 10, what I would rate this album is a 10 out of 10. And this album right here is a classic. If you don't have this album, I would highly recommend you get this album. If you are a hip hop fan and you appreciate real lyricism and you also appreciate real MCs, I would highly recommend this album. Even if you are not, even if not hip hop and you are just a fan of Wu-Tang Clan or you are just a fan of the Jizza, I would highly recommend you get this album right here. This album is a classic from start to finish. Now, obviously, they don't sell this album in stores anymore because this album came out way back in 1995. So, if you wanted to get this album right here, you will have to order this album on the internet at Amazon.com or order this album at eBay.com. I want to thank y'all for watching today's video and have a wonderful day.